Okay, so good morning. Thank you for joining the conference and thank you for coming to this session. We're going to talk about business intelligence in general and then focus on the most, let's say, technical part of it inside Excel 2013, and I will also mention what is the difference between business intelligence in 2013 and 365. So what's the difference there? Okay, I'm Dejan Sarka. I'm more than 25 years in business, writing books, everything. Of course, you already probably noticed that I'm not a native speaker. I'm from Slovenia. So before you start complaining about my pronunciation, try to say Ljubljana, which is the capital of Slovenia. I will not even force you there to try to say the name of my favorite mountain, the Gunščica. So, if you don't understand something, please ask. Of course, I will repeat with the same pronunciation, but in worst case, you can write me email or catch me on Twitter or something. And also, during this housekeeping part, please remember to evaluate the session. Please give us some feedback later. So what I'm going to talk about is Power Business Intelligence. Now this is, let's say, new buzzword, Power BI. So I'm going to talk about what are elements of this Power BI. Power Pivot, Power View, Power Map, Power QA, and BI sites. And then I will go to something that is not really treated as part of Power BI, but is the most powerful part of business intelligence in Excel, data mining techniques. So I will focus on the most powerful part, or the part where we really get I in BI. And then we'll talk about something that is now treated as enterprise information management. This is now a new common name that Microsoft is using for applications that help you to extract, transform, and load data, and to maintain and to cleanse and maintain data to get better data quality. So I will also talk about this. And finally, I will show you how you can combine Power Pivot with data mining. So this way you get also connection between Power BI and data mining. So first, I will not go into details there, but don't forget that we have a lot of analytical capabilities in Excel out of the box, without any entry. Of course, we have a lot of mathematical, statistical functions, and then part of Excel you just need to enable it is analysis toolpath, and we have some kind of what-if, goal-seek analysis tools. Of course, definitely we have pivot tables. We can create pivot tables based on worksheet data, pivot graphs, and so on. And through SharePoint Excel services, you can publish reports, or you can share even workbooks, so somebody, so your co-workers can download them and so on. Now, next thing, Excel is also a good client tool for analytical service. So the same pivot table can be used, pivot tables and pivot graphs can be used when you connect to analysis services. This is where you get these online analytical processing capabilities. So what does it mean, online analytical processing? Basically, it means that end user can change the view in real time, online. Change the view on the data, change the way how data is grouped, how data is filtered, and so on. So, in order to get this possibility, we need some database management system. And this database management system is basically has two pillars that enable this online analytical processing. And one is rich metadata, much richer than relational database management systems. With this rich metadata, client tools like Excel can create queries automatically for end user. And of course, this kind of database management system must respond with lightning speed, otherwise we are not doing online analysis. Of course, we know that SQL Server is a good database management system and so on. So why do we need something like analysis services? Well, this is specialized system. Specialized knows that data will be updated once and then read mostly. So it's really optimized for this kind of queries. And this way, it can really go to the end with this optimization if you focus on some small thing. And of course, it provides all of this additional metadata you need. Now, let me quickly show you what does it mean having an online analytical processing client. I will not even go into details, just to give you the idea what does it mean online analytical processing. I got here analysis services with couple of databases, and I will connect to this demo database in analysis services adventure work ZW 2012 from Excel. So now I'm using Excel as a pure OLAP client, pure client of analysis services. So I will connect to my local analysis services with Windows authentication and connect to some cube in analysis services database. Okay? So you see, analysis services has rich metadata. And first of all, I don't see this structure yet. So now, when I click here on OK and will insert a pivot table report, you see now Excel has built my user interface, because when connecting, Excel was actually reading this rich metadata. And based on this metadata, I can now start analyzing, and Excel is sending queries to my analysis services. Okay. So for example, internet sales amount, I will analyze this over, let's say, calendar. So over years, over semesters, quarters, months, and so on. And maybe I will check this over product categories, so put this in columns. And maybe I'm not satisfied with product categories, so I will change this to, I don't know, let's see if I got customers. Let's say customers, location, customers, geography, so I will analyze this over customers, geography. And maybe I'm interested only in a single product category, so I will put product categories in filters and filter here maybe only bikes or maybe only clothing, and maybe even insert pivot chart. Okay, this would be nice. So you see, this is online analytical processing. One click and I get a different report. But as I said, for now I use Excel as client tool only. So my Excel was client of my analysis services. Now behind pivot table there are so-called cube functions which are part of Excel, so you can even create a free form report and read data programmatically from analysis services. Great. Now you see, this is something that is really useful, because when you are researching for some problem, you know, maybe your sales didn't hit the target and so on, so you are researching what went wrong. You need this lightning speed of researches. However, so far as I said, we needed analysis services. Now, could we get the same or something similar, some similar capabilities directly inside Excel without connection to analysis services? And of course the answer is yes. So this is what Power Pivot is about. Power Pivot is add-in created by analysis services team. And this is actually single user analysis services with some limitations. It has rich metadata still. You know, analysis services has two modes, multidimensional and tabular. I will introduce them in a minute. the mode that we saw as much richer metadata. But even in Power Pivot, we have enough metadata to create similar analysis, and I will show you in a demo, so you'll be convinced that you can do this. With Power Pivot, we can support much larger data sets than we can support with Excel spreadsheets directly. And not to talk that we really get the lightning speed. You know, in Excel, the bigger the spreadsheet is, the more data you have, the performance drops exponentially. So you know, go to the limit of around 1 million rows, try to create some complex pivot tables, and you can wait for hours, if not days. So Power Pivot is analysis services. This is single user database management system, not relational, analytical management system. Data is read-only once you load it, so it's specialized. It is, because it's specialized, it's optimized for queries, but it also has some limitations. It doesn't support all kind of, let's say, schemas, as SQL Server, for example. So it is limited to a specific design pattern called star schema, when you have one central table, which is always on the many side of relationship, of any relationship, and then surrounding tables, which are on the one side relationship. And in this central table, you have things to analyze, measures, and in surrounding tables, we call them dimensions. You have attributes that are used for pivoting and pivot graphs, which give the context to these measures. Okay? So, this is also in-memory database, which means that all of the data is stored in memory. Of course, you can save it to disk in an Excel file, and this is saved actually in a zipped format. So once you have Power Pivot data inside Excel file, you can simply rename the XLSX to zip, and you can open it and see that it is really zipped data. Anyway, before you start analyzing this data, all data is loaded into memory. Of course, you might think now we have this limitation. Yes, of course, memory is the limitation. You cannot spill this data in some disk source. However, this data is highly compressed. You see, compression is one of these optimizations. If your data is read-only, or update once and then read mostly, then you can go with compression as far as possible. Because compression is, of course, speeding up queries and slowing down updates, because before update you have to decompress, update, recompress. So that's why we can have this fantastic compression. In average, you can expect at least 10 times compression, if not better. Okay. So, what does it mean? Well, if you think that nowadays you can get even notebooks, let's say, with 64 gigabytes of memory, and you have Excel 64-bit, it means that end users can easily handle half a terabyte of data. I think this is good enough for end users. Of course, with 32-bit edition, you are limited to 2 gigs, but this still means 20 gigs in average, if not more, when it's compressed. So it is impressive. Now, this Power Pivot add-in was created by analysis services team. And analysis service is the one that I used to connect with Excel as a client. Exists in nearly the same forum from version 2005. It has its own specific storage. Power Pivot is in memory, so the storage is somehow different. So before Power Pivot, the expression we used for analysis services database was all at cubes. Now Microsoft invented a new expression, just to have a single expression that covers both models, this in-memory and the classical multidimensional storage. So now we are talking about business intelligence semantic model. So this is just an expression, you know, that Microsoft is very innovative when they need to find new names. So many things rename from version to version. So this is new expression, one conceptual model, this schema, star schema, but then we have everything separated. So the one I used so far, Excel actually created MDX queries, multidimensional expressions, and Power Pivot supports a new language, DAX, data analysis expressions. And similarly, like the model is simplified, also DAX is simplified compared to MDX. Okay? But still you will see powerful enough. Storage, you can have everything on analysis services, which is in this tabular or Power Pivot model called text velocity. In analysis services is called MOLAP, called multidimensional OLAP. In analysis services in multidimensional mode. Or Excel is limited to this internal storage. Or analysis services as a server can serve also just as a middle tier, providing metadata only, getting DAX or MDX queries, translating them to, let's say, transact SQL, and actually data remains on SQL Server. So in this case, we say if we have analysis services multidimensional, we have relational, OLAP or rollup, or if this is analysis services in this tabular mode, we call this direct query. But it's the same thing, just new name. Okay. And analysis services multidimensional has one intermediate version where part of data is in analysis service, part on SQL Server. Anyway, we are limited with Excel to have everything, metadata and data in a single Excel file and in memory. So Power Pivot is actually, or this analysis services in this in-memory mode, is coming in 3 versions. So first we have this Power Pivot add-in, which is kind of intended for personal business intelligence. And then you can share this Power Pivot through SharePoint. So you can load these Power Pivot models to SharePoint, and then end users can use tools like Power View reporting tool, which I will introduce a little bit later, and connect to this model in Power Pivot model in SharePoint with a thin client like Internet Explorer, and create nice reports directly without even having Excel and Power Pivot local. So this is nice thing. And by the way, worth mentioning, of course, Power Pivot is a free add-in. So free add-in for Excel 2010, you have to download it, and free add-in for Excel 2013. You don't even have to download it in 2013, it is already there, you just need to enable it. Go to File, Option Settings, Manage Plugins, and enable it, and you get it. Power Pivot for SharePoint is just a name. This thing doesn't exist. You don't download it or anything. You need to install analysis services in SharePoint integrated mode, and then analysis services is used to interpret these Power Pivot models. And by the way, if you want to share this through SharePoint, yes, there are some nice SharePoint guys here, but I have to say that SharePoint is basically abuse of SQL Server. So it doesn't help you if you have 64-bit Excel. You are limited to 2 gigs because SharePoint is limited to 2 gigs. SharePoint is storing this in var binary max data type. In SQL Server, for example, we have file stream options, so we can, instead of storing this in database, we store just pointers to file, and SQL Server can store this in file, and then you are limited only with disk space. However, SharePoint until now, after 6 years, still doesn't know anything about file stream, so you are limited to 2 gigs if you want to share this to SharePoint. And then you can install analysis services in tabular mode, which makes less sense because you also have analysis services in multidimensional mode, which is much more powerful. But maybe you go to organizational BI with analysis services tabular, and then with the one that I have shown you, you go to enterprise level. Okay. So this is still simplified model. It's still the same as Power Pivot, just that it also enables security, for example. We don't have security in Power Pivot. You secure your data through Windows security, file system security, and so on. So we have these two models called tabular, which is Power Pivot and analysis services in tabular mode, and multidimensional. And so far, Excel was client of the multidimensional model. Tabular is simplified. Multidimensional is much more complex. We have limitations in tabular model, so you should understand that you cannot analyze any kind of data with these models. You get a lot of power, but it's not omnipotent. So this might be important limitations. So for example, this model doesn't even support many-to-many relationships. It's strictly limited to schema like this, as I said. One central table, which is on the many side of relationship with any surrounding table. Doesn't matter how many they are. The important thing is that this central table is always on the many side of relationship. We must have this kind of limitations because this is a more narrative schema which enables Excel and so on to create queries. Multidimensional already supports many-to-many relationships. Also, for example, you know this classical concept of hierarchy, which you represent with adjacency list. For example, you have employee ID, and then manager ID, and then you have foreign key to itself. So this represents some kind of hierarchy, like this. This is not supported in Power Pivot or Analysis Services Tabular. This is supported in Analysis Services Multidimensional. Also worth mentioning that even this one is not omnipotent. What if you have more general graph, like bill of materials, which is represented with two tables, you know, like parts and part as a bill of material? This is not supported even in Analysis Services Multidimensional. So if you have to do reporting from such a structure, go back to SQL Server. Okay. Now also language. DAX is more resembling Excel expressions, definitely simpler. MDX is a very complex language, so you maybe want to keep it on this level where you can create all of the queries automatically with client tools. Okay. Definitely there are not many consultants that would really know good MDX and so on, so if you start writing queries in MDX, you might quickly come to huge problems. Okay. Access, we already said, is modes. So either we have only analysis services as middle tier application only, providing only metadata in this mode, direct query and rollup, or we have all of the data in analysis services. And as I said, in Power Pivot, we are limited to this. Okay. Now, why would you use analysis services like in direct query mode? Well, we are still limited in tabular model with memory. So if you need more data, yes, then it's SQL Server. But you still have this possibility to use Excel as client tool, generate queries automatically. So you generate DAX queries, and analysis services is translating them to transact SQL. And yes, then what can happen is that you don't have queries that are written well, so you must write transact SQL queries by yourself at some point. Okay, now let me go and introduce quickly just a couple of options of Power Pivot. I'm just introducing so many different tools that I will go very quickly to some demos. So you see, with Manage, I get Power Pivot window. This is my development and administration environment. So this is like Visual Studio for Power Pivot. So I can get data from many different places. All I need is OLDB provider, ODBC driver, all data feed, and I can get data. I will simply get data from my local SQL server, from my AdventureWorks BW database. And I will just select a couple of tables just to give you the idea. So I will select bin date, for example, bin product, product category, product subcategory, and let's say bin customers. And this should be enough. And one fact table, fact internet sales. Finished. And I'm simply importing data here. Okay? And I have these tables here. Right? Now I can also see them in a diagram view. And you will see that I have this basic star schema, just that this is kind of snowflake. The product has then further tables. We call this, if we have further lookup tables, then we call this snowflake schema. But still we maintain the important part. This fact table is always on the one side, on the many side of any relationship. Okay. Now I can add a lot of metadata here. Right? I can design a lot of advanced properties. I will not even go there because this is already enough to start analyzing this data directly. So I'm just adding a new pivot table, and I will add internet sales amount here. And please note that the number is the same as I have shown you in the analysis services. But now I have no connection to analysis services anymore. And this was calculated on the fly. Analysis services multi-dimensional even pre-store segregations. So this is really lightning speed. This was calculated on the fly, and it works even on millions and millions of rows. And of course, I can now analyze this over many different attributes. And of course, let's say I can also add filters in marital status, so I can check how my merit and how my single customers are performing and so on. Okay. So basically, I did something very, very similar. Now I will create a new model, and at this moment I kind of inherited the schema from the relational data warehouse. Now I will create a new model which will be based on a query. Okay? So I will create a new Power Pivot model, and this time, of course, I will go again to SQL Server, okay, again to AdventureWorks DW database, but I will create a query for this this data. I will call this query target mail, and I will show you immediately the query and the data I'm going to read. So, in this AdventureWorks DW database, I have a nice view called target mail, and this is really random. Did you see the message? Help making SQL Server 2012 better. This is SQL Server 2014, and from time to time the message goes help making 2014 better. This is really random, but it's still CTP2. Yesterday evening, a download of RTM was enabled. I don't want to mess and to reinstall now, so this will be after this conference. So here in this view, I have joint data about customers, their demographics data, and also a flag whether this customer purchased bike or not. So the scenario for this AdventureWorks demo database is that we are having a company that is selling bikes and other sports equipment. So now they are making some kind of mailing campaign. They want to get new customers that buy bikes. So at this point, they need to learn which customers to target. So they need to learn from their existing data, okay, what are types of customers that are buying bikes. Great. So how do you learn this? And by the way, please note, I will explain this row. We have customer, everyday customer. This is not because of Power Pivot. You have already seen that Power Pivot is very fast. I will point out later in some demo why I actually use this limitation, because some demo will be slow. So I'm simply adding this table and don't have a star schema, right? So I will create a measure. So I will create kind of virtual fact table. This is also possible in Power Pivot. So I will have like one measure, like a virtual fact table, plus one dimension. So I have a very simple fact schema, fact table. It's very simple star schema. So I will just summarize bike buyer. I will call this bike buyer sum. Okay. Maybe I can add additional interesting columns. So, for example, what is the total number of rows? So bike buyer, let's say bike buyer count. And please note that these calculated measures I'm using DAX expressions. This is a DAX expression. Why DAX? Why not SQL if this is resembling tabular model? Well, the simplest answer is that maybe you noticed that Microsoft has to invent a new programming language for every new product. So in SQL Server Suite, every product has its own language, but somehow they missed reporting services. You know, reporting services expressions are using VB. I don't know how they missed. All other products have their own languages. And let me also add, let's say, bike buyer percentage. This is assignment operator colon and equal sign. So I will say it is sum of bike buyer, and please note this. This is how you refer to tables and columns in DAX. So tables in quotation marks without a dot, column in brackets. As I said, everything must be reinvented with Microsoft, including programming languages and names. Okay? So I will divide this by count of rows for the same column. And now, of course, you might think that I should multiply this by 100 to get the percentage. But you see, part of this metadata is also formatting information. So I will just click on this percentage, and this means format this as percentage. And then this is stored in this database. Okay, so it is up to client tool to honor this. Okay, and Excel as a client of its own Power Pivot is honoring this. So if you would just read data with DAX query, you would get source data, so we would need to multiply with 100. So let me now insert the pivot table, and I can start analyzing. So maybe the most important thing is bike buyer percentage, so I can check how does it works over region, and maybe inside this over number of cars owned, right? And maybe I can insert a chart again to get this idea better, and maybe I can break down this by house owner flag, for example, or I don't see any interesting here. I can maybe break this by education, and so on. So I'm trying to find which kind of people are buying bikes. And I got this lightning speed, which is great, right? Everything is fine, but of course might not be good enough. What are the limitations? Well, on the one side, I can have users that are not prepared to do this online analytical processing. I mean, this is useless if you don't have active users. Users that are not active might be satisfied with simple reports. So I would need a simple reporting tool. And don't forget that on the other side, I might have users that are more advanced and need even some more powerful tool. Why do we need more powerful tool? Well, first thing, for example, is because I could click these combinations very quickly, but I can't remember them. And also, please note that the number of combinations is growing exponentially with the number of attributes I've got. So I'm physically limited as being a human being, as being a person. I cannot click fast enough, and definitely I cannot remember what were the nice patterns. So I need some more advanced tool that will do this for me automatically, select the best patterns for me, and so on. Okay? So first, let's introduce the easiest part of this equation, which is Power View. So Power View is a reporting tool that uses as a source analysis services tabular or analysis or Power Pivot. So this is pretty powerful reporting tool, yet very simple to use. And you get Power View in SharePoint 2010. Please note, not Excel 2010. Power Pivot exists in Excel 2010. Power View, not yet. In SharePoint 2010, only if you install reporting services in SharePoint integrated mode. So Power View was created by reporting services team. And it appears as a free add-in in Excel 2013, and similarly to Power Pivot, you just need to enable it. And of course, it is still there in SharePoint 2013 if you install reporting services in SharePoint integrated mode. And the good thing is, if you use SharePoint integrated mode, of course, you have thin client, so you can create reports without even using Excel. Also, similarly as you can export Power Pivot models database to SharePoint, you can also export reports from Excel to SharePoint. And there you go, you have both tool and reports for users that are not that advanced. So Power View has a lot of knowledge behind, but it needs this analysis services model. Yeah. Worth mentioning to see how Microsoft is complicating things. You see, we know that this tabular model is using DAX and a multidimensional MDX. So pivot table and pivot graph controls that I used to analyze so far are actually creating MDX queries. Okay? And Power View is creating DAX queries. But you saw that I actually created pivot table report based on Power Pivot, which is using DAX. How is it possible? Well, Microsoft made it really complex. So inside Power Pivot and the analysis services tabular actually built a virtual cube. It has fixed name sandbox, you don't even see it. And then this cube intercepts MDX queries and translates it to DAX. Now imagine that you have analysis services in direct query mode, analysis services tabular in direct query mode. So Excel sends MDX queries, and first layer in analysis services is translating this to DAX, and the second layer is translating this to transact sequence. So now you can imagine that these queries are not the most efficient. So I would say that this direct query mode is more or less useless. You go here if you have big database, and then you need to optimize your queries. So probably you would prefer to write them manually and optimize them manually. Okay? And Power View, by the way, can also query analysis services multidimensional. Of course, the same technique is used. Power View is sending DAX query, and analysis services multidimensional is building a virtual tabular model on the top of its own cube, intercepting DAX and converting this to MDX. So it can get pretty complex. Okay, so this is really all-time online. So all actions are context-based, you get live results immediately. And everything is connected, so you can filter data in many different ways. And you can even create seamless presentation. This is good for speakers like me. You can export this to PowerPoint. So many power bullshits that it's really hard to. hard to follow. Power this, power that. Now, Power View is very nice and very powerful for such a simple tool, and it can even create maps using Bing Maps. And using Bing Maps simply means you have to be online. Maybe you know that the reporting services can also create maps without web connection, because it has also this ASRI standard XML files that describe maps, and you can include them in reports. Now, this is only interactive, so without web connection, you cannot create maps in Power View. But in Power View, these maps are two-dimensional. Okay. What is Power Map? Power Map is an additional simple reporting tool, limited just to three-dimensional maps. Okay? So, in my opinion, this should simply be merged in Power View. I think this would be the right way to represent this. So let me now show you, also worth mentioning, where do you get Power Map? Well, now we are touching Office 365 and these problems, what to decide, what to install, what to use, on-prem or cloud version. So currently we have RTM version of Power Map in Office 365 and still only CTP2 version for Excel 2013. So Microsoft promise is not cloud only, Microsoft promise is cloud first. So if they keep their promise, we should get in a couple of months also final version for Excel 2013. But please note that for Excel 2013 it's free add-in. Power BI for Office 365 you have to subscribe. For on-prem, the idea is that you already paid for the software, right? You have like professional edition, so you already paid for it. I'm not really sure if Microsoft will keep the promise. Hopefully, yes. Because once you start spending money, it's hard to go back. Okay, so let me show first a simple Power View report. So I will go now to Insert menu and the new worksheet. Go to Insert menu and create a Power View report. So Power View is using automatically my Power Pivot because it sends DAX values. So I have height by a percentage, right? And I want to analyze. In Power View, you always start, this is default font, you can enlarge it, but I'm just using zooming. You always start with creating any kind of layout with a table, and then you can convert this table to a matrix, to a graph, to a map if you have some graphical data. So you see Power Pivot is already quite smart with Power View. Let me just go a little bit lower so I get everything. So it already recognizes a lot of these columns. These are calculations. Because I explicitly created them, Power View already understands, so we have this calculator icon, so these are always measures. This is something that is just a suggestion. These are numeric columns, so you see it's sign for sum. So it suggests that this should be also used as measures, but then it is up to you. I will definitely not use number of cars owned as a measure, for example. So it's up to you how do you use it. And here you can see that it already recognized that this is column region, which must be geographical data. Okay. So let me start analyzing it, and okay, let me add English education, for example. I will even change the order. Okay, add number. Or let me start by converting this first. So let me convert this to bar chart. enlarge this. Now, if this is selected and I'm selecting more columns, this will simply go to this chart. If I want to create a new table, I will start here in some empty area and go and say, okay, let's use region and add like buyer sum. Okay, total. And since this is region, let's try to create a map. Okay, and I have Bing maps here, so you see two-dimensional maps. Or I can go to different chart, right, column chart. You see I have filters area here, so I can always add something to filters area, and then, let's say, check only for manual, right? Or all of this, the good thing is that all of these controls are connected. So for example, if I click here on partial college, I automatically filter the right graph. So it's pretty nice. Let me now clear this and add another graph. So I will go and say, okay, start with region, and then I will add bike buyer sum, bike buyer count, and bike buyer percentage. And I will enlarge this and create a scatter chart. Okay, and I have X value is bike buyer sum, this is bike buyer count, and the size is bike buyer percentage. Okay, I can also change this, but the only I don't have. Okay, let's see if I go to this, if this will work. First name, I definitely don't analyze this over first name. Sorry, let's try with gender. And this is great. Now you can see how this is playing over gender. Typically, you do this over time, right? But it's really interactive and it's really impressive when you export this to PowerPoint and show in the presentation. It's really impressive. Anyway, you see, it's a very nice tool, right? With some limitations. If it's very simple, okay, it has some limitations, so it has two-dimensional graphs only. And later I will also show three-dimensional graphs with Power Map. Yes, please, question?
With that, when you produce a report, is the data just frozen in time at the time you produce it, or can it be refreshed?
Data can be refreshed. So data can be refreshed when you open Excel file, if this is in Excel, or manually from Power Pivot.
What about if it's in the PowerPoint format? Could it be refreshed in that?
It is then automatically refreshed in Power View if it's refreshed in Power.
No, if you put it in a PowerPoint.
Yes, if you have this on the same computer, it's automatically refreshed when it's refreshed in Excel.
But only if it's on the same computer.
Yes.
Set it up, it's just stuck in a
Unless, sorry, yes, it can be also over the web, but then it must be stored on SharePoint.
That is what it's SharePoint. Right.
Then it's SharePoint. And if you store the Power Pivot model in SharePoint, you can also define scheduled refresh.
Yeah.
Here you have two options, automatically when you open the file or manually.
Yeah.
So I will show you an example of Power Map a little bit later when I introduce also Power Query. Has anybody worked with SQL Server 2000? Wow, man. So I'm not the only one person here, okay? So do you remember English query? Nobody used it. So the idea was that you have rich metadata, and then there is an engine that translates English questions to queries. The only thing was that this rich metadata was created just for English queries specifically. Now we already have this metadata in our Power Pivot model. So this is kind of reincarnation of English query, Power QA, enabling you with option that you write questions and they are translated to appropriate queries and then you get the results in tabular format automatically. We'll see if this will be more successful than English query, because English query disappeared in 2005. Currently, this is Office 365 only. I have 2013, so I can't show you this because there are other things that are important in 2013. So I didn't want to lose those things which are not enabled in 365. And Power BI sites are also Office 365 only. So what is this? This is actually kind of SharePoint in the cloud. So with Power BI subscription, you get simple SharePoint sites where you can publish your reports. So you don't need to use SharePoint just to publish this Power View and Power Map reports. Okay? And now let's go to the serious part, data mining engines. So remember, what was the problem? I couldn't create enough pivot table and pivot graph analysis, and I couldn't remember which is the best one. So I could miss the important patterns that have the most influence on buying habits. Okay? So I need something more powerful, something that is based on mathematics. And of course, this is data mining. And data mining engine is analysis services in multi-dimensional mode. Data mining add-ins for Excel just enable Excel to become data source, to become development engine, development client, and client tool. Development tool and client tool. Data mining engine is still analysis services. So these add-ins don't do anything, don't work if you don't have a connection with analysis services installed in multi-dimensional mode. These add-ins are free download for Excel 2007 already, 2010 and 2013, and these don't exist in Office 365 yet. So you see, you have to kind of decide this is trade-off, what do we want, 365 or on-prem for now. At some point it should unify, I hope. At some point it should have seamless transition. So data mining add-ins for Excel come in two flavors. One flavor is called, it's a single install, but you get two different add-ins. So one part is called data mining client, and this is more technical. So for this you would probably really want to have really advanced users. Because for this you can create permanent data mining models in analysis services. So this is basically development tool. So you can analyze either Excel data or just create mining models on analysis services for which data sources, I don't know, SQL Server data. And of course you can imagine that you need elevated permissions on analysis services. What you get here, you can get, you know, in a typical data mining project, you spend a lot of time with exploring data, cleansing data, so you get some tools that help you do this task. So these are exploring data tools. Then you get tools to create data mining models. So classify using decision trees, I will show you this. Estimate, cluster, associate, I will show you some of this also with the second part, table analysis tools. And we have some advanced options. Create a new mining structure on analysis services. Add a model to existing mining structure in analysis services. So this is then using Excel instead of Visual Studio to develop data mining models. Then we have tools to validate accuracy, check accuracy of your predictive models. Now, what does it mean? You see, we will create a predictive model. We will try to predict what influences on decision whether to buy a bike or not. Now, typically, for a more serious project, not just a demo, you create multiple models, and then you deploy the one that gives you the best result. So you need to evaluate them. And the evaluation of predictive models is pretty simple. So you just put part of the data aside. So you split data in training set and test set. And typical split is 70% of data for training and 30% for test. This is over the top, based on years of experience, gives the best results. If you have some reason, you can also use different split, but everybody uses this. This is kind of decades of experience that came to this point. And then you train your models on this train set, and then you do predictions on test set. But the outcome in test set is known, so you can simply measure the quality of predictions. And you have different ways how to measure this and present this. Now, in Excel, you are limited. Remember I said expression, data mining structure. Mining model is actually what you are creating. Mining structure is just metadata, which columns are used for a couple of mining models. In Excel, you can compare, there are limitations. In Excel, you can easily compare only models that share the same structure, which is limitation just because of simple user interface. If you want to compare mining models that don't share the same structure, you must write queries by yourself, predictive queries. And of course, you use a different language this time. This is called DMX, data mining extensions. Okay. Model usage, browse. This is simply browsing something that is deployed in analysis services. Document model, this is great. Nice development tool. Doesn't exist in Visual Studio. You can document existing model. Query, you can send DMX queries directly if you, for example, want to check accuracy of a model. Manage models, this means manage models in analysis services. This is kind of simple administration. And of course, you need elevated permissions. And definitely you need to be connected. And you can even send start profiler traces so you can see what Excel is doing. Now, the second part is called table analysis tool, and this is more user-friendly. So tools in this section are very limited, and they use more like business-oriented terminology. And you don't have so many options. Definitely you cannot do anything permanent on analysis services. So you create just temporary, or in analysis services terminology, session mining models. So you don't need any elevated permissions. There is only one thing, one property of analysis services, which is by default false: allow temporary or allow session mining models. This has to be changed to true. And then it's like in SQL Server, everybody can use 10 TB. Okay. So we have these tools that are used more from business-oriented perspective. Analyze key influencers. This is using naive-Bayes mining algorithm for predictions, similarly like we used in manual analysis to split. The tech categories. This is the most similar one to this manual pivoting. It's using decision trees, which is actually checking all possible pivoting automatically, and then keeps only the best one. So I will show you this one. Sorry, this is using clustering. I will show you the one classified of this one. This is using clustering. This is just grouping rows into groups. This is not making predictions. So this is helping you understanding structure of your customers, for example. Fill from example. You know that Excel has autofill option, but with data mining you get smart autofill. It uses logistic regression to predict new values that should be done, not just simple fill series or copy data and so on. Highlight exceptions, it's a very nice tool, also using clustering model. This is very useful, for example, for fraud detection, to find fraudulent transactions, or to find maybe weird combinations of data values. You know, you have some business rules, like, I don't know, percentage must be between 0 and 100, and these are levels of education, and this is it, and this is it. So if you look at every single column, you don't see any error. However, combination of values might be weird. And with this highlight exception tool, you can find this very easily. And this is the same thing as fraud detection. You are searching for transactions that do not fit in general picture. Okay. Remind me to leave this pen here. I already have at home a couple of these from London. So I don't need more. So you know, how does it work? You have, I will show this in a single dimension. So you have these points of data, and you try to create groups, clusters on the top of it, and you try to create clusters around some middle position in a cluster and cover this data with Gaussian distribution. Now, if you see like this data point, let's say this is cluster A, this is cluster B, this is cluster C. So every piece of data belongs to every cluster with some probability, and this belongs to cluster A with probability 0.95, and to cluster B with probability 0.0001, and to cluster C with 0.000 1. Now, let's focus maybe on this case. This case belongs to, let's say, the closest is the cluster C, but the probability is already very low. And then it's cluster B with even slightly lower probability, and then it's cluster A with very low probability. So what's the point? Well, take a look at the highest probability. This is low. Cases with low highest probability, this means that these cases do not belong well to any of the clusters, which simply means they are somehow different from other cases. And you can highlight them and later inspect them. Shopping basket analysis. Analyzing market basket is typically a very complex thing. You see, we need a lot of distinct count queries, which are quickly very complex and very inefficient in Transact SQL, in MDX, or in DAX. With data mining, you can do this like a piece of cake. We'll see how much time we'll have. We have forecasting tool, time series, so I will decide how many demos to show. I will definitely show a couple of interesting demos. We have advanced goal-seek, advanced what-if tool based on logistic regression. So you get much better results than with built-in goal-seek and what-if analysis tools. That much better results. So let me show a couple of these things. So let me go here and import some data. Please note that so far data mining is using Excel data, not Power Pivot data. And by the end of the talk, I will show you how you can combine data mining with Power Pivot and use Power Pivot data for data mining. Actually, you know what, I will go from query because I will again copy the query. Yes, so I will just create a SQL query, so I will copy the same query here. Copy the same query. Okay. And return data to Microsoft Excel in a tabular format. So here is my data mining client. And you see I have many options. So for example, I can just browse existing model. And please note that I am connected to analysis services where I have this data mining models database. It's this one. I have a couple of mining models in some structures. So I have a couple of mining models here. So let me go back to Excel. I'm connected here. So now my Excel is pure data mining client, just showing results from analysis services. These are clusters. I clustered my population based on some input variables to 5 clusters. So now I am analyzing my customers. So for example, I see in cluster 2 I have mostly people with partial high score. Let's say this also is high score. So apparently these are high score and partial high score. And let's see region. So cluster 1 are mostly people from Europe. I can also get cluster profiles, very condensed view, or more useful, for example, cluster discrimination. This showing me what differs cluster 1, for example, from other clusters. So in cluster 1, we have mostly people in Europe with manual occupation, low yearly income, right? But they live close to where they work and so on. So this is how you can get understanding of this. So Excel was pure data mining client. Now let's use Excel as data mining engine. So I will go to classify and I will analyze the same data I analyzed from Power Pivot, just this time is in Excel worksheet, okay? Which means that I'm limited to 1 million rows, which is not limitation at all, because data mining is based on statistics, and in statistics we work with samples. So how many rows do you need? All you need is a valid sample, 20,000, 30,000 rows, no more. Never more than 100,000. So it's not a problem. So, this has some heuristics but doesn't work too well. Wanted to analyze first name, I will analyze by buyer, okay? And input, I don't need customer, key first name, last name, all other columns will be good for the input. And here immediately asks me whether I want to leave 30% of data for testing. I don't want, because I'm creating just a simple model. And you see, here it says, do I want to create a permanent or temporary model? So I will create, decision, please, let's say, permanent model, and for this I really need elevated permissions in analysis services. And now, Excel is sending data to analysis services is analyzing data, and then Excel is sending queries and presenting this with data mining viewers. So now I can easily find what has influence on mining, purchasing bikes behavior. So this is checking all possible combinations, all meaningful combinations, and give me immediately interesting results. So if age is greater than 47, marital status is married, and not having 3 children at home, then I have already 55, nearly 56% of probability that this person will buy a bike. So you see, all of this analysis was done automatically for me. Imagine how many clicks I would need to do this manually. Would I find this pattern? Probably not. Probably not. I simply don't have enough time for clicking. Now, let me go to table tools. First show you this simple property of analysis services. General. You see, data mining allows session mining models. I set it to true, and by default it is set to false. And now I can create session mining models. So this is more for end users. And for example, let me show you highlight exceptions. So, okay, this time it's not smarter wizard, it just remembered which columns I selected earlier. You know, it's still not smarter. But this time, these are nice columns. So now I'm just doing clustering analysis. How many clusters? Fixed 10. I have no influence, so if I want to do more serious way, I should go to data mining client or Visual Studio. And this is threshold. How many exceptions do I want to have? More or less. Okay? And here is general overview. With this threshold, the most exceptions I get in age. Okay? But let me go back to original sheet, and you see these exceptions are highlighted. So these are those suspicious rows. Let's analyze them. And in this row, you see combination is somehow weird. We have 4 children, 4 at home, Bachelor college, clerical, has a house, has 2 cars, very close to commute distance from North America, and so on. This might be okay, the combination doesn't fit to other data. So then it is up to you to decide, is it really wrong or not, or is it a correct value. And you see, I was never asked whether I want to build a permanent model. Let's go to analysis services database and let's refresh this structure. And you see, from data mining client, my structure is here. So for using this part, I really don't need any, I really don't need any additional permissions in analysis services because I'm not using it anymore. It's already everything in Excel. Okay. This was another nice example. And of course, let me show you one more very quickly, quick one where I have already prepared sample data. So, for example, let's go. Okay, let's go back and go for this one. So here I have orders, you see, and I have products, okay, even categories, and I have products on these orders. So I need market basket analysis. What is purchased together? Well, with table analysis tools, look at this shopping basket analysis, order number is transaction ID, right? I don't want to start, I will start directly on product. By the way, you should always start on a higher level, because imagine that you have a retail store with million products. Now you get billion of a situation rules. Who can read this? So you should start with categories and then do further in-depth analysis with pre-filtering data. And even value will be defined by product price. Again, this is sent to analysis services. Analysis services is analyzing. Excel is just showing data. And you see, I have all of the data here. So, fender set mounting and mounting 200 bike, bundle size is 2, number of sales 438, average value per sale, overall value of bundle. Now compare this to performing multiple listing count queries. You will never get the same. Recommendations. So, average linked sales. So, if somebody has a Touring tire tube and Touring tire, this is supported by 897 cases in my data. Now, this is total sales, and this is supported with 507 linked sales, which means that in 56%, if somebody has purchased Touring tire tube, this person has also purchased Touring tire. And this is the value, this is something cheap. Let's see that something that was expensive. This gave me huge average value, purpose bike stand and patch kit, so on. So you see, this was very, very quickly, very, very impressive analysis. And note that this doesn't exist in Office 365. So, the last part, okay, just introduce what else you get in Excel. Power Query is also part of Power BI, which means exists in final version in 365 and CTP version 2013 and waiting for final version. So what is Power Query? This is simple ETL tool, extract, transform, load. You can go to nearly, it's a lot of knowledge built inside, similarly to Power View, just for the ETL. So you get tabular data nearly out of anything. This is also your connection to big data, for example. You just query big data with Power Query and get tabular format, useful. And I will show you immediately the demo, but I will simply send query over the web. And Power Query will search for things that I'm searching for and find websites where this information can be extracted from. So it's very interesting tool and very, very powerful, as I said. Did I save this Excel? The one with data mining, I will still need to create it. Otherwise, I will have to repeat. You see all of these data sources. So you get useful data immediately prepared for analysis from websites, from big data, from databases, from anywhere. Even if data is not shaped correctly yet, it will shape it for you. Incredible amount of knowledge. It's even so smart, I will do a website search. You can use subscription to some data source, Azure databases, data market, or some third-party data source. But if you go directly to online search, it searches only free sources. It is really, really powerful and gives you great, great results. Let me show you this demo, and then I will just mention. Or okay, there are only 2 slides. Let's finish with slides, and then we'll see. So, master data services is part of SQL Server 2012 and 2014, and this is the second part of enterprise information management tools. So you see, we have in SQL Server, on SQL Server side, we have integration services as ETL tool, and the same thing in Excel is Power Query, much simpler, doesn't have all of the power, yes, but very nice. And then we have master data services. This is master data management tool. This is tool that you should use to maintain the quality of your master data. And Excel can be a client of this tool with free MDS add-in. And if you are using master data services, you can use Office 365 yet, because this is another free add-in that exists for 2013 and 2010 only, free downloadable. And then this is very nice rich client for master data services. So you can update master data in batches, implement all business rules, and then send this to the real server. Okay? And part of it, when you publish, okay, do this. Part of it is also data quality services, the duplication. So data quality services is another tool that comes with SQL Server 2012 and 2014. Oh, by the way, master data services already comes in 2008 release 2, but don't use it. It's so buggy and so slow that it's really painful to even try to use it. I'm really serious. I have never seen so much bugs in a single product that Microsoft has there. My record is 12 clicks, and this is the longest chain of uninterrupted clicks before it crashed. The shortest is 2 clicks. Okay. So from 2012 it is okay. And data quality services is another product that helps you with occasional cleansing. So you can create something what is called knowledge base, so you can automatize this occasional cleansing. And inside this knowledge base, you can also define matching rules for approximate matching of strings. And the good thing is that MDS add-in can also use this. So before sending data to, let's say, master data services, you can check with help of DQS whether you have duplicates in your Excel worksheet. This is also nice. And there is prerequisite, DQS and MDS must be installed on the same SQL Server instance. Otherwise, because you have MDS add-in that then connects to MDS, and MDS then connects to DQS in your name. This matching is great for small amounts of matches. Generally, it is not too fast. So you don't want to do matching on more than 1,000 rows. What if you need to do matching on 1,000,000 rows in one worksheet and 1,000,000 in another? Then you need some more powerful tool. And this more powerful tool exists in integration services. It's called fuzzy lookup. And there is also less known, but there is also fuzzy lookup add-in for Excel. And with this tool, you can really perform matching on huge amounts of data. Okay, I will create a new file and just show you Power Query and Power Map. Okay? So I will go to Power Query, and first I will get some data from a SQL Server database. From my adventure DW 2012 database, and you see user interface is not state-of-the-art one. So I will just copy query that summarize sales over countries. Okay. And here is my Power Query. Great. Apply and close. Fine. Okay, would be also nice if I would rename this, but anyway, not so important. And now I will show you online search. So I have sales over countries. Now I would like to get sales per capita. So what I need is population, right? So I will search for, and I hope that web connection is working. It worked couple. Countries population. It's using Bing search engine. So it's searching for sources that are useful. And please note how many sources already found. Okay? Look order. Let's take this one. This was extracted from some Wikipedia site. This is directly from Wikipedia, extracted in tabular format, brought to my Excel. You see? Now, I can merge this data from my query using country, merging on country. Only include matching rows. 6 rows. And this is my merged query. I will rename it. Sales per capita, for example. Okay. And this is my new column, which is actually a table. So all I need is sales from my original table. And let me also rename this one. Where is rename? And say this is only country. So now I got, and rename this one just to sales, not new column sales. So you see, I have just joined web data with my database data. And now I can add custom column. This is actually the name custom, so you have to delete it. Sales per capita. Okay, to have a little bit bigger result, I will multiply this by 1000. So I will say this is sales divided by population. Okay. Apply and close. And let's insert Power Map report. This is still a little bit slow. Okay. And once it is so slow, it is not a good sign. Typically you get out of memory error, but then, come on. Ah, it works. I didn't get out of the memory error. So it already recognized countries. So now I will add sales per capita. Okay. No, this is, sorry. I will not select, I will just go here to next. This is the geographical, right? And now I will say analyze sales per capita. And let's enlarge these columns a bit, these bars a bit. And you see, I've got my nice three-dimensional analysis, and suddenly I see that sales per capita in Australia are really high, which maybe I couldn't see by basic sales, and sales in the United States, which are the highest, are not so high when you compare this per capita. So, I don't even need to save this one. Last thing, I owe you one thing that I promised. How can you mine Power Pivot data, and how can you use data mining within Power Pivot? Well, you must get Power Pivot data in Excel worksheet to mine it. which is very simple. Create a flattened pivot table report, and then convert this to formulas without any subtotals. So you don't have a pivot table, which is a closed control, but you have kind of data directly accessible. Format this data as a table, and then mine it. What about the opposite? Can you use data mining models inside Power Pivot? First of all, why would you use them? Well, by including them as dimensions in a Power Pivot model, you enable these mining models for all end users that can use this Power Pivot cube. And you can do the same thing for analysis services. So suddenly everybody can use data mining models with any OLAP client. And also the next thing is that you definitely need to validate over time your mining models, how good the predictions are. So you definitely need to, at some point you have to refine them. For example, fraud detection. Okay, you detected frauds. So you have good prediction what is a fraud and what is not a fraud. But your predictions will deteriorate. The quality of your predictions will deteriorate over time because people who do frauds actually learn. Who would think so? So they are changing the patterns. So you should measure the quality of your predictions over time. And where do we measure things over time? Exactly in data warehouses and OLAP cubes. So this is really interleaved. And I do a lot of mining projects, and I always insist I'm measuring one. If I cannot measure, it's not worth anything. I don't like these bullshit things. You need to do this, you need to do that. No, I don't need. I'm a free man, so I decide what I need to, what I do and what I don't do. And what I do, I want to measure. So I always say, okay, and we build also OLAP cubes just to measure mining models, if nothing else. So let me show you how you do this. And this will be the end, the last demo. So let me open this demo one. Hopefully this is still there. Okay, enable content. So let me go to power something. Sometimes it's hard to find the right power. Okay. And let me insert a pivot table. And let me insert a flattened pivot table. Okay. So from this target mail, I will use customer key for this time, and maybe a number of cars owned, and maybe occupation, and by buyer sum, which is on detail level, actual, let's include, it was too smart. Let me add customer key here, a number of cars owned here, and then I have my pivot table. So let's design it. Let's get rid of subtotals, let's get rid of grand totals, so I have flattened pivot query, pivot table. So all I need is to convert it to formulas, and this is the slow part, so hopefully it will finish in reasonable time. And now all I need, I can immediately use data mining on sale range. If I want to use table analysis, I just need to convert this sale range to tables. And now let me go and enhance this Power Pivot model with data mining model. And I will use this data mining model, clustering model, I have shown you earlier. Just I will use DMX query to get the same every 10th customer. So I will go from analysis services, from my data mining models database, and it asks me for NDX statement, and I even have NDX designer. But I will simply send DMX query, and this is the only trick you need to do. So I already imported mining model. I have customer key and cluster predicted for this customer. Now all I need to do is connect these two tables. Actually create a foreign key. Okay, not this is also I should probably rename query to something more meaningful. And what now? Well, I have this percentage of bind pairs, and I can use my clustering model like it was a regular table. So I successfully connected also my mining model with Power Pivot, and this is very, very, very useful. So I think you have had opportunity to get the impression how powerful Excel becomes with all of these tools. Just a matter of trade-off whether do you want 365 or 2013, and hopefully this will be unified at some point. Any questions?
Do you know if there's any plans for any of this technology to actually go up on Mac? We have some senior managers who like Apple stuff, unfortunately.
Very hard. Microsoft is pretty quiet about all of these plans lately. It seems like they don't want to commit to anything, which is not good. I get the impression that they don't know where they want to go. This is the impression I get, and they don't want to commit, unfortunately.
So I assume if someone creates an Power View report on Windows, you have to have Power View installed on any machine that wants to open that.
They are working on this as well. No problem. Okay, I'm around till the end of the conference, so thank you very much for coming to this session and enjoy the conference. Okay, so good morning. Thank you for joining the conference and thank you for coming to this session. We're going to talk about business intelligence in general and then focus on the most, let's say, technical part of it. Inside Excel 2013, and I will also mention what is the difference between business intelligence in 2013 and 365. What's the difference there? Okay, I'm Dejan Sarka. I'm more than 25 years in business, writing books, everything. Of course, you already probably noticed that I'm not a native speaker. I'm from Slovenia. So before you start complaining about my pronunciation, try to say Ljubljana, which is the capital of Slovenia. I will not even force you there to try to say the name of my favorite mountain, Begunjčica. So, if you don't understand something, please ask. Of course, I will repeat with the same pronunciation, but in worst case, you can write me email or catch me at Twitter or something. And also, during this housekeeping part, please remember to evaluate the session. Please give us some feedback later. So what I'm going to talk about is Power Business Intelligence. Now this is, let's say, new buzzword, Power BI. So I'm going to talk about what are elements of this Power BI. Power Pivot, Power View, Power Map, Power QA, and BI sites. And then I will go to something that is not really treated as part of Power BI, but is the most powerful part of business intelligence in Excel, data mining techniques. So I will focus on the most powerful part, or the part where we really get UI in BI. And then we talk about something that is now treated as enterprise information management. This is now a new common name that Microsoft is using for applications that help you to extract, transform, and load data, and to maintain and to cleanse and maintain data to get better data quality. So I will also talk about this. And finally, I will show you how you can combine Power Pivot with data mining. So this way you get also connection between Power BI and data mining. So first, I will not go into details there, but don't forget that we have a lot of analytical capabilities in Excel out of the box without any entry. Of course, we have a lot of mathematical, statistical functions, and then part of Excel you just need to enable it is analysis toolpath, and we have some kind of what-if, goal-seek analysis tools. Of course, definitely we have pivot tables. We can create pivot tables based on worksheet data, pivot graphs, and so on. And through SharePoint. Now, this Power Pivot add-in was created by Analysis Services team. And Analysis Services, the one that I used to connect with Excel as a client, exists in nearly the same forum from version 2005. It has its own specific storage. Power Pivot is in memory, so the storage is somehow different. So before Power Pivot, the expression we used for Analysis Services database was OLAP cubes. Now Microsoft invented a new expression just to have a single expression that covers both models, this in-memory and the classical multidimensional storage. So now we are talking about business intelligence semantic model. So this is just an expression, you know, that Microsoft is very innovative when they need to find new names. So many things rename from version to version. So this is new expression, one conceptual model, this schema, star schema, but then we have everything separated. So the one I used so far, Excel actually created MDX queries, multidimensional expressions, and Power Pivot supports a new language, DAX, data analysis expressions. And similarly, like the model is simplified, also DAX is simplified compared to MDX. Okay? But still you will see powerful enough. Storage, you can have everything on Analysis Services, which is in this tabular or Power Pivot model called text velocity. In Analysis Services is called MOLAP, called multidimensional OLAP. In Analysis Services in multidimensional mode. Or Excel is limited to this internal storage. Or Analysis Services as a server can serve also just as a middle tier, providing metadata only, getting DAX or MDX queries, translating them to, let's say, transact SQL, and actually data remains on SQL Server. So in this case, we say if we have Analysis Services multidimensional, we have relational, OLAP or ROLAP, or if this is Analysis Services in this tabular mode, we call this direct query. But it's the same thing, just new name. Okay. And Analysis Services multidimensional has one intermediate version where part of data is in Analysis Services, part on SQL Server. Anyway, we are limited with Excel to have everything, metadata and data in a single Excel file and in memory. So Power Pivot is actually, or this Analysis Services in this in-memory mode, is coming in 3 versions. So first we have this Power Pivot add-in, which is kind of personal, intended for personal business intelligence. And then you can share this Power Pivot through SharePoint. So you can load these Power Pivot models to SharePoint, and then when connecting, Excel was actually reading this rich metadata. And based on this metadata, I can now start analyzing, and Excel is sending queries to my Analysis Services. Okay. So for example, internet sales amount, I will analyze this over, let's say, calendar. So over years, over semesters, quarters, months, and so on. And maybe I will check this over product categories, so put this in columns. And maybe I'm not satisfied with product categories, so I will change this to, I don't know, let's see if I got customers. let's say, customer's location, customer's geography. So I will analyze this over customer's geography. And maybe I'm interested only in a single product category. So I will put product categories in filters and filter here maybe only bikes or maybe only clothing. And maybe even insert pivot chart. Okay, this would be nice. So you see, this is online analytical processing. One click and I get a different report. But as I said, for now I use Excel as client tool only. So my Excel was client of my analysis services. Now behind pivot table there are so-called cube functions which are part of Excel, so you can even create a free form report and read data programmatically from analysis services. Great. Now you see, this is something that is really useful because when you are researching for some problem, you know, maybe your sales didn't hit the target and so on, so you are researching what went wrong. You need this lightning speed of researches. However, so far as I said, we needed analysis services. Now, could we get the same or something similar, some similar capabilities directly inside Excel without connection to analysis services? And of course the answer is yes. So this is what Power Pivot is about. Power Pivot is add-in created by analysis services team. And this is actually single user analysis services with some limitations. It has rich metadata, still, you know, analysis services has two modes, multidimensional and tabular. I will introduce them in a minute. The mode that we saw has much richer metadata. But even in Power Pivot, we have enough metadata to create similar analysis, and I will show you in a demo, so you'll be convinced that you can do this. With Power Pivot, we can support much larger data sets than we can support with Excel spreadsheets directly. And not to talk that we really get the lightning speed. You know, in Excel, the bigger the spreadsheet is, the more data you have, the performance drops exponentially. So I know it go to the limit of around 1 million rows, try to create some complex pivot tables, and you can wait for hours if not days. So Power Pivot is analysis services. This is single user database management system, not relational, analytical management system. Data is read only once you load it, so it's specialized. It is, because it's specialized, it's optimized for queries, but it also has some limitations. It doesn't support all kind of, let's say, schemas, as SQL Server, for example. So it is limited to a specific design pattern called star schema, when you have one central table, which is always on the many sides of relationship, of any relationship, and then surrounding tables, which are on the one side relationship. And in this central table, you have things to analyze, measures, and in surrounding tables, we call them dimensions. You have attributes that are used for pivoting and pivot graphs, which give the context to these measures. Okay? So, this is also in-memory database, which means that all of the data is stored in memory. Of course, you can save it to disk in an Excel file, and this is saved actually in a zipped format. So once you have Power Pivot data inside Excel file, you can simply rename the XLSX to zip, and you can open it and see that it is really zipped data. Anyway, before you start analyzing this data, all data is loaded into memory. Of course, you might think now we have this limitation. Yes, of course, memory is the limitation. You cannot spill this data in some disk source. However, this data is highly compressed. You see, compression is one of these optimizations. If your data is read-only or update once and then read mostly, then you can go with compression as far as possible. Because compression is, of course, speeding up queries and slowing down updates, because before update you have to decompress, update, recompress. So that's why we can have this fantastic compression. In average, you can expect at least 10 times compression, if not better. Okay. So, what does it mean? Well, if you think that nowadays you can get even notebooks, let's say, with 64 gigabytes of memory, and you have Excel 64-bit, it means that end users can easily handle half of terabyte of data. I think this is good enough for end users. Of course, with 32-bit edition, you are limited to 2 gigs, but this still means 20 gigs in average, if not more, when it's compressed. So it is impressive. On Excel services, you can publish reports, or you can share even workbooks, so somebody, so your co-workers can download them and so on. Now, next thing, Excel is also a good client tool for analytical service. So the same pivot table can be used, pivot tables and pivot graphs can be used when you connect to analysis services. And this is where you get these online analytical processing capabilities. So what does it mean, online analytical processing? Basically, it means that end user can change the view in real time, online. Change the view on the data, change the way how data is grouped, how data is filtered, and so on. So, in order to get this possibility, we need some database management system. And this database management system is basically has two pillars that enable this online analytical processing. And one is rich metadata, much richer than relational database management systems. With this rich metadata, client tools like Excel can create queries automatically for end user. And of course, this kind of database management system must respond with lightning speed, otherwise we are not doing online analysis. Of course, we know that SQL Server is a good database management system and so on. So why do we need something like analysis services? Well, this is specialized system. Specialized knows that data will be updated once and then read mostly. So it's really optimized for this kind of queries. And this way, it can really go to the end with this optimization if you focus on some small thing. And of course, it provides all of this additional metadata you need. Now, let me quickly show you what does it mean having an online analytical processing client. I will not even go into details, just to give you the idea what does it mean online analytical processing. I got here analysis services with couple of databases, and I will connect to this demo database in analysis services Adventure Works ZW 2012 from Excel. So now I'm using Excel as a pure OLAP client, pure client of analysis services. So I will connect to my local analysis services with Windows authentication and connect to some cube in analysis services database. Okay? So you see, analysis services has rich metadata. And first of all, I don't see this structure yet. So now, when I click here on OK and will insert the pivot table report, you see now Excel has built my user interface, because